to my channel. I'm going to finish the Q&A video really quick for you guys that I started the other day. I think I just need to do more little Q&As because there's so many questions you guys have, and I feel like I talk a lot about a lot of different things, and so I feel like I could do a lot of Q&As. But I'm going to just finish the list that I had from the first Q&A video. Someone said, what nationality are you? Okay, so I was born and raised, I am American. So I was born in Madison, Wisconsin, and I was raised in the Midwest, and I am a United States citizen. As far as my ancestry and my genes are concerned, I am mostly German. So mostly German. I've always wanted to do the ancestry test because I feel like it'd be really interesting to see my, family tree and see like where my family actually specifically has come from. Obviously, Germany would be my first guess. And I also think that I'm part Norwegian and Bohemian. I don't even know if that's like a thing. But when I was younger, I think it was like a school assignment that you had to sort of like dive into, more of like what you were. So I don't know why Bohemian came up. I think it was like maybe on an internet search I did for like my last name. But also, so my last name is not technically, it is my last name, but because my grandmother, her husband passed away and she remarried, and so that changed my dad's last name when he was a young child. And so my last name is White, but I don't have any sort of, my bloodline is not white. So my last name is White, but I don't have any sort of blood relation to any whites. So my grandmother, she was this like fabulous lady. She kind of was like, she looks like in her old photos, she has that like old Hollywood glam type of like vibe. She was a nurse. She, had like the 50s, like that short hair, the cat eye glasses, like her name was Gladys. Her last name was Pecho, which is German. So she was a German lady, and she was just fabulous. And she ended up dying when I was a teenager of emphysema because she smoked a lot. So I would advise anyone, do not smoke. It's very bad for you. So I just wish that she was around today because there's so many more questions that I want to ask her, but she's not here. So, and of course, like when I was a teenager, I was 14 when she passed away. So I didn't really get to see her that often. I mean, I did in my childhood, and my memories of her she was like a very cool lady, but of course when you're younger, like you don't really think about important subjects or topics and things to really talk to these people about until you're older. Like now I have so many questions for her, but she's of course not here, so I can't ask her. But yeah, when you're younger, like it's stuff you don't really think about, but she was very cool from what I remember. And so Gladys Pecho, so my bloodline is Pecho. Pecho is German, and the last time Frank and I were in Germany, we actually tried to look up Pechos. There are Pechos in Germany still, and I'm like, I wonder if I'm like related to them. That would be so cool. Her husband, James Campbell, yeah, he passed away when my dad was young, maybe like 3 or 5 years old, something like that. So he was very small. So I don't even think he knew his dad that well, but the whole thing is very sad. I think my grandmother, I think she was very, 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 my aunt told me she was very sad. I don't think she ever really got over the heartbreak of losing James Campbell. Okay, we're back. My battery died and I charged it, so I'm going to hopefully wrap this video up quickly. Okay, so where was I? Yes, so my bloodline and my ancestors are mostly German, a little bit Norwegian, I think. Not sure on the Norwegian, but definitely German. Also, my mom's side of the family is also mostly German, but I don't think that she really knew much about the history there, so I don't actually know a lot of the info. I just know that they're mostly German, but yeah, I know for sure my dad's side, definitely German. So we have mostly German genes, but I am an American. Okay, next question. Have I ever been to Canada, and do I know any Canadians? I've actually never been to Canada. It's a place that I want to go. It's beautiful. There's so many great areas in Canada that I would love to visit. One of my friends in high school, she actually got married, and her husband's family was in Canada, or from Canada. So they were at the wedding, and it was just really interesting to talk about like things that we call things. Like, I think Canadians say semi-truck instead of semi-truck. So that's just one example. So that was kind of fun, very interesting. But yeah, so I've actually never been to Canada. Those are probably the only Canadians that I know. But like, then again, I don't really know them that well other than that wedding weekend, because it's my friend's husband's family. So it's not like I would see them all the time. So that's really the only Canadians that I actually know. And the only other situation that I've ever had with Canada would be Frank was on a work trip. He was at this really fancy boutique hotel in Canada. I forget the city, but it's just like, it's one of the most iconic, historical, fancy hotels in Canada as a whole. And it looks like this like old fancy castle, but it's huge. The grounds are huge, but it almost looks like a fancy French chalet, or like, I don't know how to describe it. He's obviously showed me photos and things, but it was beautiful. And the only other experience I have with Canada would be, obviously Wisconsin is on the border. So I've spent some time in the UP, or the upper peninsula area, and there's a lot of eagles up there. There's a lot of cool water activities, outdoor activities. The trees are beautiful. They're just really tall. They're really tall, gorgeous trees. I caught my first, I guess, large fish up there. I went fishing with the group that I was with, and I think it was a northern pike, I think. They're really long and skinny and black. I think that's a northern pike. But then I realized that I felt really bad because of like the hook that goes into the fish. But, you know, I was reassured that they don't have nerve endings there, so they're really not in pain. But I still felt bad because, like, here's this fish just happily swimming along, and then I'm over here like dragging it out of its environment, poking a hole in its lip. Like, that's just not something I want to be doing. And I know that, like, I do eat fish and I like fish and all of that, so that's a whole other subject. But I just remember feeling bad about it, so I let the fish go back to its home, and it was happy. So, and then the other thing with Canada, when I was in high school, my brother, I think that he went driving. I don't know why I can't remember why he was driving up north. Maybe he was attending some game or something. I don't know. But he ended up driving, and he ended up going across the Canadian border. And then, like, he didn't have his passport with him or his papers because he thought he was, like, in Wisconsin still, but he was just, like, going on a road trip, or he went driving just for fun, or to see some scenes or scenery or whatever. And then he literally, I remember he called my parents, and it was like this whole big thing because, like, they wouldn't let him back in the United States because he crossed over the border, but he didn't have his passport and stuff. So I don't know. I don't even remember how he ended up getting out of that. I don't think anyone had to drive it to him. I think somehow they were able to like find his information or look him up or something when they let him back in the US. I don't know. Maybe he had his driver's license with him. I'm not really sure, but yeah, it was like this whole thing because he was just leisurely driving for fun and then didn't even know that he crossed over into Canada, and then they wouldn't even let him back in the US because he didn't have his passport. I thought it was hilarious. And I don't remember what road that was either, but that definitely did happen, so that was funny. But yeah, those are all the experiences I have with Canada, but it'd be fun to go there someday and check out all the things. Let's see, next question. When was the last time that I was in love? Well, before I met Frank, I would say probably my first love was this guy when I was 18 to 22. We dated for about 4.5 years, and he, I would consider, would be my first love. We had such an amazing time together. I will never forget him. I will always love him. And every once in a great while we'll connect and we'll just update each other on our lives, but he's married and has a family and all of that, and that's totally fine. I'm happy for him, great for that. It ended up not working out because he was busy in flight school and then I was busy doing my own thing, and then we had just kind of like stopped talking, and it was just kind of really, really sad how everything, like, we didn't have like a huge fight or breakup or anything like that. It was just, we were in two completely different parts of the world doing our own things, like schooling, and you know, like he was stressed out and like all of these things, but we connected later on and we're like, oh, well, maybe we should have, you know, when you're young, you don't really think about things through a lot, and so you end up doing things. And we connected later and he said, well, maybe we should have, you know, visited each other more or done that, whatever. But, you know, hindsight's 2020. You can always look back and say, oh, I could have done things differently. But the reality is that that happened, and it just kind of didn't, our paths went in different directions. And at the time we weren't together anymore because our paths took us to different, you know, places, and that was okay. But yeah, he was my first love. He was an officer in the Navy and he went to flight school, so he will always have a special place in my heart. Also his family is so sweet, love them. So yes, let's see, how much time do I have left? I was trying to finish this video and just get my battery done. Okay, diet and exercise. I touched on this a little bit in the Q&A, but I love the 1982 original Jane Fonda workout video. I do spin class here and there. It's nice because the Jane Fonda video is like, you can do it at home. So you can just leisurely get up in the morning or do it at night or whatever. You can just throw the DVD in and just do it quick. You also, if you didn't want to buy the DVD, you can just look it up on YouTube. It's also on there. So you can find it online. And also there's a home gym here. So if I want to do that, it's just nice. I can just go quick on the treadmill, or I can go on the bike or whatever. And then also the weather in the south is really nice. So if I really want, like right now, like right outside the window, like it's super sunny and gorgeous out. And it's just super easy to just kind of walk outside and go for a walk, which when I lived in Wisconsin, it wasn't necessarily all the case because the weather really isn't that great most of the time. So in the summer, yeah, but what is that, 3 months out of the year? My favorite season in Wisconsin was fall. Fall is my favorite season. I just like, you can just feel like the air gets a little crispy, and I love like all the fall baking. And in the Midwest, they have all of these cute little, like you can go pick apples or do all that kind of stuff. And I don't know, fall is always like my favorite. So since moving to the South, I have not experienced like apple picking. I'm sure they do that here, but I haven't looked into it. So the last 2 years I've been in the South, I do not actually know and haven't really dived into the fall activities that much. I did do, the first year I was here, I did a pumpkin patch in the fall with Frank 2 years ago now. It's crazy, it's been 2 years. And that was really cute. It was at this little church. It was this small little place, and in the front yard they had, you know, all these little pumpkins out, and it was just really cute. So maybe I'll experience more of that later this year. What advice do you have for improving finances? Well, I will say I'm the type of person where I always want to be working and I always want to be securing the bag for myself. I take work very seriously. Everything that I have is because I have worked for it and I have earned it. No one has given me anything. I have never gotten a silver spoon. That was not a thing. Everything that I have is because Holly has worked for it. I do not and have never liked asking for stuff from people, because then I feel like I owe that person something. And I don't even like asking, like Frank will ask, what do I want for my birthday? I don't even like asking Frank for a gift, because then I feel like it's just so ingrained in my being and in who I am that I don't want to ever feel like asking people for something, because I can just work for it and I can earn it myself. And I feel like actually receiving something or purchasing something for myself is so much more meaningful when you have worked for something and you're going to take better care of it. You're going to appreciate it more because you have put in the time and the effort and the work in order to get or achieve whatever it is that you have worked for. So that is something that my parents instilled in me. And when I was younger, of course, like, you know, you hate it at the time when you're a kid, but when you're older, you appreciate it. Like, I've been working since I was 12, and there's been no period in my life where I've ever not had a job before I was 12. Obviously, before I was 12, I didn't have a job because that's crazy. But ever since I was 12, I've had multiple jobs at one time, and I've always had a job. I've never been a freeloader. I've never expected other people to pay for things for me. I have never been that kind of a person. So I think that if you're looking to improve your finances, I think that you really need to take a kind of like objective look at yourself, and you need to come to terms with what is your income? What are your expenses? Maybe do a basic budget. Like, everybody should try to manage their finances, or you should try to at least have a basic budget. I know a lot of people say, oh, I don't need a budget. It doesn't matter if you're a millionaire or you're broke. You should have a budget. So you should know where all of your money is going before you get paid. You should be paying yourself first. You should be putting money into your savings, your emergency fund, your investments. You should have your savings account in that's gaining interest. So like a high yield savings account is a great idea, because then you're actually earning money by your money sitting in there, versus like a regular savings account, like you're basically earning like not that much money. So it's just little things like that that I would try to do. I would open a brokerage account. I would start putting extra money in there from every paycheck and just start building your stock portfolio, things like that. Like, you always want to be looking at things like for me, I look at things like, yes, I want to spend more on higher quality items and have less stuff, but have higher quality stuff and that costs more. But I feel like you always want to be saving money, and you always want to be investing in yourself. And the way I look at it is, I want to spend my money on things that appreciate in value. And I don't really like to spend money on things that depreciate in value. For example, when I bought a new car now, but when I was younger, I had a 2003 Toyota Camry. It was basic, it was smart, it was economical, and it served its purpose. And did I love the color? No, it was kind of like a weird gold beige color. I didn't love it. But so I can't even tell you how many people made fun of me for driving that car for so long, but I had a goal, and I wanted to drive that car over 300,000 miles before it died. and I had that car over a decade, and I got it to 304,000 miles, and I was so proud of myself. And the funny thing is that the transmission started slipping right before I moved to Atlanta. So I didn't have to worry about bringing the car here. I just bought a new car in Atlanta. So everything kind of worked out in a perfect sort of way, which is crazy. Yeah, no, everyone made fun of me for driving that car forever. Like, oh, well, why don't you have a new car or whatever? It's like, I have a goal. I want to drive this car. There's nothing wrong with this car. I don't have a car payment. My insurances were fairly low. Like, I barely ever have to do repairs on this thing. It was just very smart. And in general, I don't love spending a bunch of money on vehicles. I think that it's a waste of money. I think when you're young, it is a huge waste of money. And when you're young, you need to focus more on putting money into a IRA, a 401k. You need to have a brokerage account, put money in the stock market. You need to be investing in things. You need to be building your emergency savings account. You need to be paying yourself. You need to be investing in things that are assets. And that's your time to do that, is when you're younger. But a lot of people, when they're young, a lot of people buy these expensive cars, and it's like, okay, well, if you buy a new car, the second you drive it off the lot, it's depreciating in value by like over 10K. It's crazy. And like later on in your life, after you have everything set up and everything is like accruing in value and you have appreciating assets and all of these things, sure, later on, like, buy yourself that nice car you've always wanted. But I feel like most people do that when they're like 20s, young 30s, and I feel like if you have the money to blow, then by all means, okay, whatever. But most people have these expensive cars and they're like, they have these huge car payments and all these things, when in reality, like, they have no emergency funds. They have nothing set up for themselves, and it doesn't make any sense to me. So my advice to you would be to stop worrying about having a fancy car when you're in your 20s. You don't need it. Like, the people that care about you, like, they're not going to judge you based on your car. There was actually a guy that I dated, and he's like, oh, this car is disgusting. This car gives me like a disease, by like looking at it. And it's because he had like this fancy car or whatever. And I was just like, you know what? If you can't appreciate the fact that I have a goal to get this thing to 300,000 miles, like, then this probably isn't going to work out. The fact that like he would judge me based on the car that I was driving was just so gross to me. But I mean, that's just the reality. People do judge you based on that, but those really aren't your people. And I would say that people have it flipped. So it was funny, one of my friends, when I actually bought my new car that I have now in Atlanta, she actually said, she's like, oh, what's your car payment? And then I looked at her and I was like, well, I don't have a car payment. I just paid cash for the car because I had money saved up because I drove my other car for so long through my 20s that I was able to save up for my replacement car after that car was gone. So I feel like I was very smart about the whole thing, but I just feel like society has this sick hold on people where it's like they push you to like be always getting new and always getting, all these things. But I think that just switch your focus and realize that like, it's fine. Like, you're better off, not putting your money into a depreciating asset. And a car is the biggest depreciating asset that you can possibly put your money into. So I'm glad that I didn't do that in my 20s, and now I'm a lot better off for it. But not everyone can say the same thing, so I would just say, you don't need to have the newest, flashiest car if you can't afford it. Like, don't live beyond your means to impress somebody that, you don't even like, and they don't even like you, so it doesn't even matter. Like, set yourself up, worry about yourself, like, set yourself up and make sure that you're paying yourself. You have your investments set up, you have your savings account, you have your emergency fund, because those people, like, what if something happens and you need an emergency fund, but instead of putting your money away, like, you spent all this money on some car that you didn't even need to impress somebody who doesn't even care about you, that if something happens, guess what? That person that they're not gonna come save you if you need money. No. So you need to have a savings account. If something happens, you need to be able to live, eat, pay to live, all the things. So I just would advise you to not get caught up in buying all these things and putting your money into depreciating assets too soon in your life. I would, you know, later on when you have more of an income and more of like yourself established with your investments, portfolios and things, then you can treat yourself, you know, later on or whatever. But you need, it's so important when you're younger to get those things set up. And I can do a whole separate video on that because I learned the hard way. Okay, so I'm not just sitting here like on my soapbox saying all these things. Like, I got myself in a horrible financial situation and it was the worst, and I never want to ever do that again. But I was able to learn a lot, and I will never be in that situation again. So I think that, I hope you took something from this. I hope that was sort of helpful. And okay, I think that was almost the last of the initial questions that I had. Yes, so I will wrap this up as my second Q&A. I know a lot of people were asking also for like more like luxury hauls or more like little styling hauls and things like that, which I can definitely do. Okay, that's a wrap. I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching this video. Like, comment, and please subscribe. I will see you all in the next video. Bye.